Welcome to the India Fintech Diaries, the only podcast focused exclusively on the Indian fintech market. I'm Elroy.
And I'm Hemant. In each episode, we dive into the latest trends, ideas, innovations, business models, and personalities that are shaping India's fintech landscape.
We also invite amazing guests who are innovators and industry players that are driving the change that is helping make financial services more modern, innovative, and inclusive in India. Come join us as we explore the changing landscape of fintech in India.
Hi everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of India Fintech Diaries. I'm your co-host Hemant, and this is the show where we discuss the latest trends in Indian fintech, speak to some amazing guests from the industry, and dive deep into specific fintech themes.
And I'm your co-host Elroy. In today's episode, we continue in our journey to understand how fintech can have a transformative effect on Bharat. Financial inclusion in India has seen extensive improvement in the last few years. Bank account coverage has reached 80% of the population, and the Government of India continues to work towards extending financial services to the unbanked. However, at the ground level, several challenges still exist, which are further compounded by low financial literacy. To discuss financial inclusion and more, I am very pleased to welcome Vikas Saraogi, Vice President, Merchant Acceptance, South Asia Mastercard. Welcome to India Fintech Diaries, Vikas.
Great to have you on the show. For the benefit of our listeners, can you quickly talk a little bit about your background, Vikas?
Thanks, Elroy and Hemant for having me. I'm just delighted to be here. And let me roll back the clock by many years back. I was born in a small village in Churu district of Rajasthan. A place where even today we don't see much of digital payments, and even merchants don't even have a point of sale device. Being the head of acceptance for Mastercard, it continues to give me nightmares, and not only for professional reasons but also for personal reasons. It's almost my mission to make India a less cash economy and to take digital payments to the nooks and corners of the country. Fast forward 20 years later, almost, I joined HDFC Bank in their merchant acceptance business. Help them grow their business, become one of the largest acquirers. Before I joined Mastercard about 8 years back, Mastercard has been a very interesting journey. I was fortunate to go to Europe for a 6-month assignment, and only to discover two things. One, India is actually way ahead of all these Western markets when it comes to digital payments, in terms of the solutions, in terms of technology. And secondly, the solutions that are available in the developed markets may not be the right fit for the India market. So I came back and again had some very interesting projects. I worked with the regulator and the industry to launch the first global interoperable QR solution called Bharat QR. After that, worked on projects on contactless to launch India's first contactless card in the market, followed by mobile-based tap and go payments. Recently, I've been working with the regulator on the Payments Infrastructure Development Fund, and helping them and the industry to how do we grow acceptance beyond tier 2 locations.
Vikas, I was researching for this episode and I came across this report done by Mastercard with Niti Aayog called Connected Commerce, Creating a Roadmap for Digital Inclusive Bharat. In it, Ari Sarkar, co-president Asia Pacific Mastercard, very eloquently outlines a key imperative for the future. He says, and I quote, "We must build digital systems for underserved communities so they can access services and better control their future." I completely agree with this sentiment, and I think there are 3 or 4 areas we need to improve upon to achieve this goal. Let's take the first one, which is last mile delivery of financial services. In India, while the banked population has been growing through good government initiatives like Jan Dhan, access to financial services outside of cities has not kept really pace. One key indicator or good indicator of access to financial services is ATM penetration. Even today, we have about 21 ATMs per 100,000 people. You compare that to Cambodia even, which has 23, and to China, which is 96, we are just not there. So I have 2 questions, Vikas, for you. The first being, what is your view on the scope of the access problem? And the second being, how do you think we can improve on access to banking services in Bharat?
Hemant, you hit the nail on the head, and you spoke about ATM penetration and gave some statistics. Let me say that ATM is not really the end game, because at the end of the day, an ATM just gives you access to cash, and we all know, access cash is not good.
Correct.
I mean, as a behavior, what we really want is consumers to move to merchant payments in a digital form, and the need for ATMs should be reduced to a bare minimum. For the simple reason, if setting up ATM infrastructure is time consumer, there is cost involved, and as I said, it again encourages cash, right? So what we need to move
Right.
is more of POS terminals. And if I give you a sense of how India is placed, for every 1,000 people, we have only 5 POS terminals in India. If you compare this with developed markets, they are somewhere between 10 to 20. And if you look at the developed markets, say US, UK, Europe, they would be somewhere between 30 to 40. So therefore, what we need to do is move from the current POS terminals, which right now is about 5.5, 6 million, and if you include QRs and all, we are about say 7.5 million. We need to at least double it, if not triple it, over the next 4 to 5 years to move to about 15 to 18 million acceptance locations in India, and that is extremely important. India, you spoke about access to digitization resources. India is a mobile first market, right? So we got to
Right.
find out solutions which are conducive to this kind of market. A lot of solutions which are working in the Western markets will not be fit for India. So therefore, we need to focus on mobile first solutions. This is where a lot of work from our side has gone in, and similarly, there's a need to work together as an industry, all of us, whether it is the government, the regulator, the networks, and the banks, to create more awareness, more trust within the ecosystem. And you're absolutely right. If you go beyond the tier two cities, we still POS numbers even goes down further, or the card payments go down further, and which is what we need to solve. Which is where Mastercard has put in a lot of effort. Most of our awareness campaigns, marketing campaigns have been around, how to move acceptance or digital payments beyond tier two. We recently launched a campaign where we had our brand ambassador Mahendra Singh Dhoni, the Captain Cool, and
Yeah.
we did this priceless team cashless campaign, which touched more than 30,000 merchants across 5 cities. And the reason for one of the reasons why we chose MSD was he comes from a tier two kind of a place, not from a metro, and the people connect with him. And therefore, very clearly, that is our focus area: how to move digital payments beyond tier one and tier two places in the country.
Because I think you touched on some very pertinent points in that, right? Especially about how we currently lag in terms of POS terminal penetration in India. I think the RBI is also aware of this and has done some pretty interesting policy initiatives, which include creation of this new acceptance development fund for creation of acceptance infrastructure in the country. I also think that you have had a very good sense of how this has changed over the years in terms of building of acceptance infrastructure. So could you also talk to us of some of the challenges you have seen in expanding acceptance networks to rural and semi-urban India? And how do you see, or rather, what trends in terms of both rollout and technology that you see that will actually help improve this in the near future?
Sure, Elroy. So, firstly, I must compliment both the government and the regulator for being real visionary digital payments. As you rightly said, the regulator launched a payments infrastructure development fund earlier this year, and the objective is to deploy 9 million acceptance locations over the next 3 years. And all of them, 9 million, have to come from tier 3 and beyond locations with a specific focus on Northeast, because that's a part of the country which is still way behind. So that's a positive. Now, what are the challenges? And some of the challenges we have seen have been pretty common across markets, and specifically to India. I think there are three key challenges if you have to grow acceptance. One, a large country like India, and acceptance has always been a very manual, intensive kind of a business where you have sales teams, the service teams, point of sale devices, and so on and so forth. How do you onboard merchants or SMEs across the country in a way which can be done in a digital manner, where any SME across the country can onboard, maybe self onboard, and it reduces the cost and the turnaround time for onboarding a merchant? I think that is one of the big challenges we saw. How do you onboard a merchant digitally? Which is where we have done a lot of work. We did internal work as well, and finally we partnered with a company called Sciencey. It's a fintech company in India, and we have launched with them a digital onboarding solution for merchants, and we have taken it across the industry to all the acquirers. What it does is it empowers a merchant anywhere in the country today to self onboard in a digital format. And secondly, it reduces the turnaround time and the cost of onboarding a merchant by almost 90% for an acquirer. That's huge. That's huge in terms of productivity and in
Right.
terms of ease for the merchant. So that's one problem. Second, the form factor which we have seen, which is hard physical point of sale terminal, again, that's not something which can satisfy the needs of 1.3 billion people and 60 million merchant SME universe that we have in India, because the cost is prohibitive. It requires service.
Hmm.
So as I said, we need to have solutions which are mobile first, which require less servicing for a large market like India, which is where two, three interesting things we have done. One, we had launched a Bharat QR, interoperable EMV based QR in India. That was way back in 2017-18. That was one. Again, you don't require a physical POS. You can just scan and make the payment. That was one. And recently, we have launched Soft POS, which in association with multiple banks and a fintech company, which basically converts your smartphone into a point of sale device on which you can just tap your card and make the payment. It powers a SME to make a digital avatar of his store. So basically helping SMEs,
Hmm.
physical store to online, and then accept face-to-face payments by tap on phone, or remote payments by link-based payments, or QR codes. So, in a nutshell, those are the kind of solutions we need to kind of increase POS penetration in India. And thirdly, as I said, building awareness. India, and that is where all of us have to work together. It's not one network alone that can do that, because we need to reach out to 1.3 billion to encourage them to build trust and a feeling of security when they make digital payments.
Understood, Vikas. And those are some very interesting trends that you have touched upon. Now, that brings me to the next area of focus, digital payments. Digital payments have skyrocketed during the pandemic period, with UPI now clocking consistently 2 billion plus transactions per month. In fact, as per a recent report, India overtook China to become the world leader in real time payments. But along with this massive rise in digital payment also comes the specter of payment security. This becomes especially important as digital payments, as you rightly highlighted, is moving towards the hinterlands of India, and the financial education in these areas is very hard to find. So, because what trends have you seen during pandemic, both from the point of view of digital payments and also payment security, and what can we really do to ensure that digital payment access and knowledge to use is equally inclusive?
Absolutely, that's an interesting one, and an important one. So, firstly, what this pandemic has done, and it's almost like demonetization 2.0, where it has kind of pushed people to move to digital payments, and this trend will continue. It's not only a matter of 12 months or 18 months. In fact, we did a survey and found that 58% of people said that they would want to do contactless payments to their cards, prepaid debit, or wallets, or mobile wallets. And 81% of consumers said that even after the pandemic, they will continue to use more of contactless payments. So, what this pandemic has done has accelerated the digital journey for us, which would have taken 3 to 4 years probably. It has happened in a matter of few months. And we have seen that contactless payments going up. We have seen e-commerce transactions growing. So those are two trends we have clearly seen. Now, with these kind of payments, what also happens is that the risk of frauds also increases. We are moving to a world of Internet of Things. Most all the devices we see are getting connected, whether it is your television, your phone always was, your iPad, your refrigerator. We are moving towards that world, and in that connected world, we are leaving more and more digital footprints, and most of these devices are eventually going to be used for payments. So it becomes very important to ensure that all this data, all this digital footprints which are being exchanged, which are being left behind, are managed in a very secure manner. That's of utmost importance. Now, what we have done, and we have encouraged this very much, we have introduced the concept of tokenization, which means your card credentials on the consumer side do not pass through the chain. So whether when you transact on a merchant location, your merchant will not have your actual card number. His systems will not store his physical card details. So even if the system for some reason was to be compromised, there will not be any financial challenges, point number one, and there will not be much frauds because the data is in a tokenized format and the actual card data, is not being passed on. So I think tokenization is the way to go. On the consumer side, we've already done that when we launched, say, Apple Pay in other markets. In India, when we launched Samsung Pay, most of the banks have already enrolled for this program. In fact, with SBI cards, we launched mobile-based payments where a SBI cardholder can just save his card on the phone and just tap his phone and make the payments across all the POS terminals. So, and that is happening now across the banks. So I think both on the consumer side, even on the merchant side, we need to see more solutions like tokenization. I think that's the way to go.
Interesting, Vikas. I had a follow-up question there. So while tokenization is important and it will actually change the way we look at payment security, I think a related question is how do you make sure that this security aspect of tokenization is correctly communicated to someone who might not understand these aspects very well, especially when it comes to moving to tier 2, tier 3 cities? Any thoughts on that?
A great question. So, because as you rightly said, tier two and beyond, those consumers are still way behind. So, firstly, Elroy, this
Yeah,
tokenization, all these jargons are for bankers and people like us. It's not for the
correct.
consumer, right? For the consumer, we need to ensure that we communicate in a manner which is simple and easy to understand, right? Now, consumers today in India actually are very, when you look at mobiles, they are very conversant. It's one of those markets where mobile data usage has gone through the roof, right? So,
Yeah,
so consumers have access to mobile phones and they understand mobiles very well, right? Now, tokenization, as I said, it's for B2B players, for people like us. For consumers, he is just he has a physical card today, or he has a bank account. In fact, we are allowing both to be tokenized, and the consumer can just enroll that in his provision that on his phone. Rest for the consumer, nothing changes. He continues to go to a merchant location and just tap his phone. Nothing changes. Even for a e-commerce transaction, he does that. Right? For the consumer, nothing changes. And your point is absolutely valid. The way we communicate, we need to keep it simple. But at the back end, all this magic is happening at the back end. We introduce tokenization and all this stuff happens. But for the consumers and for the merchants, things remain the same. And which is the beauty of the solution like this.
So I think Vikas, if I could paraphrase that, essentially what you're saying is that from the consumer's standpoint, and this will be actually important when we look at tier 2 and tier 3 beyond, nothing really changes because it's something that's transparent to them, right? And what you really need to focus is to make sure that all the other actors in the or stakeholders in the payment value chain are tokenization enabled so that the end benefits of tokenization can be given to the consumer. Is that kind of summarizing it well?
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head.
Perfect. I'll just move focus a little bit towards agriculture, right? See, India, for example, is agriculture still remains one of the biggest employment sectors in India. About 58% of India's population being employed in that sector. Farmers still face a lot of challenges, be it access to markets, information, inputs. But as financial services goes, they have problems in accessing credit. And therefore, digitizing financial transactions for farmers has become a very important keystone in the way that we approach digital financial inclusion in the country. So what do you think are some of the challenges in making this a reality? And I understand that Mastercard also has some initiatives that it's currently engaged in. Could you also speak a little bit about that?
Sure, and Roy. So, as you rightly said, you spoke about access to finance. I think there are three challenges for the farmers community. One is access to capital, which you spoke about, and the other
Yeah.
are access to technology and access to information. Right? I see those three as the key challenges for this sector. And most of the farmers work in a very unorganized manner. They are not a part of FPOs, which are farmer producer organizations, or self-help,
Yeah.
right? And they always are surrounded by middlemen, and therefore, so neither do they have information about the market, what should be the right selling price, and again, they end up borrowing from middlemen at a very high rate of interest, and end up selling the produce at a much lower price to the end consumer, right? So that's the challenge they face. Now, to solve this, what we have done we have launched a solution called Mastercard Farmers Network Solution. It is called eRaitu, and it was launched in 2008, and it is currently operating in the state of Andhra Pradesh. And we are working with the government of Andhra Pradesh in the horticulture department. And what this platform does is, firstly, it brings the farmers and the buyers together on a single platform
Okay.
in a very transparent manner. And it's a mobile based platform. And secondly, it is a feature phone based platform. So what this platform does is it links the farmers with the buyers. The farmers can directly sell to the buyers, and buyers can directly tell the price at which they want to buy. So it reduces the middleman, point number one. And they also get access to information which they otherwise would not have. So, in a nutshell,
Right.
this entire platform, mobile-based platform, empowers a farmer to get information, which was a challenge, and then sell the goods, sell his produce at a fair market value directly to the buyer. So, this is what we have done. And on top of it, the farmer will be able to receive payments again digitally. So, information. Secondly, technology is what we have provided. And with the mix of this, if you combine this together and the payments are going in a digital format, we believe somewhere down the line, the banks would be able to kind of do lending to these farmers based on their digital records and digital transactions at a far better, attractive financing options than what they're currently doing. So that is how we are trying to solve the challenges which a farmer faces today.
I think that's some great work you guys are doing as far as making farmers financially included. I think this is a good time to also introduce some of the wider work that MasterCard is doing for financial inclusion. MasterCard recently pledged to financially include 1 billion people and 50 million micro and small businesses into the digital economy by 2025. Now, this is a worldwide goal, and it's certainly a very ambitious goal. So, talk to us some of the initiatives that MasterCard is taking both in India and globally to make this happen.
Sure. So, firstly, and Roy, whatever solutions we are building, these are all in-house. So, for example, Master
Yeah.
Farmers Network solution that was built in Mastercard labs in Kenya, and it was brought to India then, and it was in our Pune lab. This was customized for India. So you spoke about bringing Mastercard's pledge 1 billion consumers, and also we are topping that up with 50 million SMEs. We want to bring them in financial inclusion, and that's just not a philanthropic kind of effort. It's a real focus on our side. And just to give you a sense, over the last 5 years, we have got 500 million consumers already in financial inclusion, and that's where we want to double our efforts. As I said, some of the solutions we have built in house, we have brought to India. Mastercard Farmers Network was one. Similarly, we have built another solution called KioNect, which was again first introduced in Africa. What that does is it is a digital billing ordering system for small merchants by which they can directly connect with their suppliers or wholesalers, see the menu, make payments, order goods, and basis all their digital transactions. Again, there could be a bank who could finance these inventory for these MSMEs. So that was launched in Kenya with a bank and MSMEs. We are bringing customizing it for India and bringing that to India as well, where we are again working with a large FMCG company, a bank, and some of these MSMEs to kind of digitize their ordering system and providing them access to capital. So that's something which I think is going to be very, very powerful to solve the problems of MSMEs and bringing, giving them access to capital as well as digital payments. So that's one. Other thing is we're working with a lot of NGOs again to build digital literacy and build awareness in the country. And one of the organizations we have partnered with is Confederation of All India Traders (CIT), which is an umbrella organization which has more than 65 million SME members. So we have been working with them over the last 3 to 4 years to build awareness, to educate some of these MSMEs across the country. That's another initiative, and it has brought us good results. I spoke about how our marketing campaigns are talking about tier three and beyond, and similarly in Rajasthan we had worked with an organization to build awareness among 10,000 MSMEs who we connected with. And also, we work with another organization to get 1 lakh 100,000 women entrepreneurs or artisans into the digital fold. Those are some of the things we are doing. And as I said, digital financial inclusion is something very, very close to our heart. So whether it is building solutions or whether it is providing financial support, we have been at the forefront.
Very interesting, Vikas. Because you touched upon few partnerships. One was Samsung, the another one was Scienzy. Then you also now spoke about these partnerships with the NGOs. Talk to us about some of these more interesting and other interesting partnerships that you have done in the space of, say, fintech or technology companies to include or target or achieve the goal of financial inclusion that you're going behind.
So we have a program called Start Path, which essentially is to help fintechs in the country. And we have reached out to almost 230 fintechs who have enrolled for this program. And the way it works is they get enrolled for a 6-month program with us where they get mentoring, they get access to resources, Mastercard resources, information, and we finally take them to investors. A lot of them get investments, and sometimes Mastercard also end up investing. So this is what we have been doing for fintechs, born in India, make in India, and taken to the globe. Sciency, I spoke about, how the digital onboarding solution has worked wonders. We ended up investing in Sciency, by the way. And similarly, we have worked with Worldline, a payments company, to build this entire soft POS plug and play solution, which can provide digital payments on a mobile phone for all the merchants, for especially the public sector banks, who would find it very difficult to build something like this. That's another one. Similarly, we have worked with Paycraft, which is more in the transit ecosystem. We have worked with Razorpay, which is more of an e-commerce company. And yes, we have been kind of working with a lot of fintechs in the country to bring out solutions which can solve for the real Bharat. And most of them are mobile-based solutions.
Excellent, Vikas. I think this has been a brilliant session with you, and you have really helped us understand how Mastercard is helping push the financial inclusion agenda both in India and globally.
Thanks a ton for being part of this episode today and speaking with us.
Thanks, Elroy. Thanks, Hemant. Thanks for having me.
That's it for India Fintech Diaries this week. Do keep an eye out on our website, indiafintechdiaries.com, for exclusive companion content on topics discussed on the show. And until next time, stay safe.